So what's the story with you and Maverick? It seems like he's got you a little rattled.
It's none of your business. Now, where the hell is he?
Been here the whole time.
Holy shit.
You see me now?
Come on, let's get it over with.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are The Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. And on today's episode, we're taking a look at Top Gun Maverick. After 30 years, Maverick is still pushing the envelope as a naval aviator, but must now confront ghosts of his past when he leads Top Gun elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. Well, John, we're live for the first time in a while. Me and you even doing it in person. I'm so used to seeing your face visually. It's nice to, not do this virtual for once.
I know, it's a little bit more scary in person.
It is a little bit more scary. We're a little more intimidating here now. But, yeah, I figured let's talk about Top Gun Maverick, because that seems to be the movie that had no business being as goddamn good as it is. Because, seriously, this movie had, the most traumatic history of movie releases, which seems to be kind of common. You actually brought this up when we were talking about Puss in Boots, which, check it out on the channel, it is available. Puss in Boots was another movie which was kind of in developmental hell for the longest time, but came out and we both really loved it. And I gotta tell you, man, Top Gun Maverick is right up there because I had a phenomenal time with this movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like this was definitely one of those movies where so many people were going in with such low expectations, but then leaving the theater or after watching this movie just blown away by just everything in this movie. And after you're done watching the movie, you totally understand what everybody was talking about throughout the whole thing.
Right, because I keep sitting there when we were watching this going it's going to get bad, it's going to get cheesy, but it never does that for some reason. And it has all that cheese that we love from the original Top Gun, but it also relies on some new stuff, which I think is really refreshing for a series to do. More movies really need to take notes when it comes to rebooting a franchise or continuing a franchise, because this is what I'm looking for, right? New story, new characters, but also having some fun with the old ones as well.
Yeah, and I felt like there was no time during this whole entire movie that I was sitting there going, I'm bored, or I'm looking for something else, or the whole time sitting there, it was never one of those things where sometimes you'll watch a movie at home and you'll think, all right, let me go on my phone for a little bit, or let me think about something else. Right. The whole time this whole movie just drew you in throughout the whole thing. Yeah. Never made me think about anything else. It was just I can't wait. I just love it, enjoying this movie. I know.
It just from the minute this sets off, Tom Cruise is back again, and he's phenomenal. I don't know what to tell you. I know he's got his detractors, and and I get it. All right, I get Scientology's crazy. Oh my god, but he's a good actor. Yes. I mean, he really is. And he kind of proves this again with Top Gun, because he's automatically likable. Even if you didn't watch the original Top Gun, you can kind of get a sense of what the story is here, because they kind of get you caught up to speed. And it's not like a rehash of everything that happened. You just kind of know, he lost his co-pilot at one point, and now he has to deal with his son in a new kind of mission where he has to make a decision. And I think that's really cool. And it actually aged the character, because he's still the fun-loving Maverick. If you love the original Top Gun, he's still Maverick, right? Yeah. He's still got the cocky, he's still a little bit arrogant, but he's also aged. And it's interesting to see Tom Cruise kind of embody that character, because I kind of can't separate the two. I feel like Maverick is Tom Cruise and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. They seem like they're one and the same, but you also see just the little hints that they throw into this movie of him aging and him understanding things and looking at things through a different level. I feel like the little things that they add in made this story even better.
Right.
And I feel like, you don't have to see the original one, because they pretty much cover it in just subtle little ways, but you understand to understand this whole movie.
But that's not to say, if you watch the original one, you're going to like this even more.
No,
that's just obvious. There's no way around that. 100%. And again, I think Tom Cruise is really the big selling point for this movie. And what this movie does is really interesting, in my opinion. The beginning sets up Maverick. You kind of get this little solo mission he goes on that introduces you to the character. And like you said, kind of shows how he's matured and aged. But Also hasn't at the same time. He's kind of stuck in a rut of being like the same rank. He's still a captain. Like he hasn't wanted to change or anything like that. And then he gets pulled into this mission with a bunch of young recruits. And the movie does something which was very dangerous, I thought. The movie kind of starts out where it's rehashing the same things. It's rehashing like meeting the people in the bar, having like an awkward confrontation like he did with, you know, the girl in the original movie. And then like, oh, he's actually their teacher. Oh no, it's an awkward situation. I got scared, man, when that happened because I'm like, oh no, we're doing it again. It's just going to be a rehash of Top Gun. But then it doesn't. Like that's all it does as far as the initial setup. And then it turns the story into him really trying to bond with these students, which we didn't have that in the original Top Gun. That's not what all it was about. It's really kind of like each pilot trying to show up the other pilot. And you have a little bit of that dynamic, but this really is like Tom Cruise's connection with these pilots and wanting to save them and help like nurture them so they don't die in this mission. And man, it was tugging at my heartstrings a little bit here and there. It definitely had a lot more emotional moments than it deserved.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like this movie was more about, the other one was more individuality, and this one was more about teamwork.
Right.
And having a whole bunch of people with strong egos, Tom Cruise being one of them.
Right, yeah.
Very big ego, and all these people in one room having to work together for one greater cause. And you kind of saw like them testing each other a little bit, but then you saw it in the way of like him showing them, hey, you have to work together to beat this mission, not separate.
Right, and I like that. I like that kind of theming, and that also plays really nice with Miles Teller is another actor who we've seen before in movies like Whiplash and stuff like that, and he gives a phenomenal performance. He looks like Goose, number one, so that was perfect casting on that. And number two, he captures like the essence of that character, but is also his own individual character as well, where we see the chemistry he has with Tom Cruise is phenomenal. You could tell there's like this like hatred for him, but also you see Tom Cruise's side where it's like a little bit of a misunderstanding and like he's looking out for him, but Tom Cruise plays such an honorable character that it really kind of it's interesting. It's a different dynamic that we didn't have, and I really like that because again, it could have been so cliche, man.
Well, I also think that it was interesting how Tom Cruise told the story about him talking to Goose's son's mom about it, or Goose's wife.
Yeah.
About like how she didn't want him to get into flying planes. She didn't want him into the Navy.
Right.
She didn't want that for his lifestyle. And Tom Cruise was like trying everything he could. But again, you can see the resentment that he had for him for that.
Right.
But plus also knowing what happened with his dad.
Right.
But you saw that at the near like the end portion, he started to almost look at him like he was just trying to be. He was stepping in for my dad when he couldn't be there,
right?
As my dad was there for him through this moment.
Yeah, there's a strong like exchanging of the unknown, kind of like he's like telling him what he did, but not telling him what he did. Like, and again, this is what this movie just does so well because it complements that, and then we have a lot of like the team growing scenes, which I really liked. All those excursions that they had. Not to mention, most of it's done physically with like real jets and real cameras and stuff like that. Like, yeah, some of the cockpit stuff's whatever, but you can't really tell half the time. It looks so damn good. There's a thing I remember reading that Tom Cruise actually like paid to have all the actors like get flying lessons so they could be like as realistic as possible. Which good for him, man. I don't know where you find that kind of money, but I guess he is Tom Cruise.
That's Tom Cruise money.
Tom Cruise money after all. But it was worth it because like it felt every jet scene, which I guess you could dog maybe the original one a little bit because it doesn't seem as intense. Maybe I think it still is, but they obviously recycle a lot of footage, but that's the limitations of the original. This one we don't have to really do that as much, and we get some really really great choreographed flight scenes and nothing too outrageous, but it's always really cool.
Definitely. And
I think, like you said, the team building was like excellent in there, and that goes into maybe what I'll consider a little bit of a weakness. Now, I pointed this out to you when we were watching this movie. It's very similar to something in the sci-fi genre. A little movie known as Star Wars. If you've seen Star Wars: A New Hope, which I think pretty much all of our viewers probably have at this point, you're going to see some similarities, including a trench run, some people coming out of nowhere, saving the day, dodging some laser cannons, having to flow real low, hitting a really small hole, even to the point of almost using the Force at one point. Is it awkward? Yeah. Do you think it'll bother people, John?
I don't think it will bother people because I didn't notice it at first until you told me.
Right.
And then it was kind of very obvious, though, but it was one of those things that I don't think it would bother you as much.
Well, it's something we kind of talk about on the channel every now and then, is when you can tell a similar story, because there's always the argument there's only so many stories that can be written, and sometimes you have to be more clever with it. And I think that's what this movie does. It kind of took the guise of Star Wars, something that really worked well, especially that kind of youth origin story of like finding your way and stuff like that, and they took it and put it into this movie, disguised it the best they could, but it does do different things around that too, which I think that was ingenuity on their part, and it kind of felt like more like Star Wars than most of the Star Wars movies I've seen pretty much recently. So it's got that going for it too, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, this movie really just is like a class act when it comes to that, and like I said, the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. Like I said, I think the story threads, I don't think it'll bother people too much. If you notice it, you're going to notice it. But I think, again, the through-line story is so damn strong in this movie. I think you're going to have a great time.
Yeah. Well, also the one weird part that we were kind of talking about a little bit when we were watching it was how only one of the pilots have have a co-pilot with them.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like strange how just one person had it and nobody else really had like a co-pilot. It was really everybody was a group together, and then these two were like together, in the same plane and everything. So
yeah,
that kind of was a little bit weird.
Right? Phoenix and, was it Bob?
Yes,
Yeah,
Bob.
Phoenix and Bob. That was a great name for a character.
And Bob was...
Yeah, his call sign's Bob.
Well, the weird thing was, too, we were like, Bob is such a weird character, and then they picked him, and I was like, why would they pick Bob?
Right. No, you're right. And like I said, this movie it knows what it's doing with that. And maybe that is an interesting takeaway, too. Like, they decided not to go that route, because towards the end of the movie, it definitely kind of... Tom Cruise gets to share a moment with Miles Teller that's like he would have with his father, and I think that was really cool and really special, just to have that interaction. And the last thing I do want to touch on just real quick, Val Kilmer's in this movie. Val Kilmer is unfortunately still suffering the effects of his illness and disease with the cancer and stuff like that, so he's unable to talk. But I don't know, man. That really, I remember looking at you like I'm getting a little misty eyed. Tom Cruise, again, we've talked about his acting ability throughout this whole entire movie. He sells it.
Yes.
And he has to, because you think about it, Val Kilmer can't really talk. He's just typing on a keyboard, and you need an actor that's going to be able to look at the camera and look back at him and relay all these emotions. He's having a one-sided conversation almost, and he has to interact with it. And, Val Kilmer talks at the end, obviously, and it's special to have him there. But that interaction, man, that's good proof of how good an actor Tom Cruise really is.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that moment, just that whole moment there, it was amazing. And it's a good thing, like, they kept that in there. Because, sometimes how they get rid of certain things for certain reasons. But I feel like that definitely was a great part of the movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I said, this movie has no business being as good as it is, but I'm glad to say I think Tom Cruise's Top Gun Maverick is like a fantastic time. I really recommend it. So I think we're ready to give our final scores. I'm going to give Top Gun Maverick a 10 out of 10.
If I send him on this mission, he might never come home. And if I don't send him, he'll never forgive me. Either way, I could lose him forever. I know.
It's a great time. I highly recommend this if you're an action fanatic, a military fanatic, just a Tom Cruise fanatic if you're still there. This is a great movie. It just really is enjoyable. The hype is there. Again, no business being as good as it is. Absolutely none. Shattered my expectations. I had a great time. I've watched it several times now at this point. Pick up the 4K copy. Not sponsored, wish we were, but seriously, it's great. I can't recommend this movie enough. John, how about you? What do you think of this one?
I think I have to give this one definitely a 10.
Every morning from this day forward, you will brief us on your instructional plans in writing, and nothing will change without my express approval.
Including the hard deck, sir?
Especially the hard deck, Captain.
Sir.
What is this?
It's a request to lower the hard deck, sir, to practice a low-level bombing run per the mission parameters.
You could learn a thing or two about timing, Captain.
I feel like this movie deserves it. It was one of those movies where from start to finish you enjoyed it. You had a great time with it. I feel like it showed exactly what we want from movies too. How we want a good story, some great action, and this movie told a great story, and I felt like it was definitely well put together, I felt like.
Right, it's about fleshing out these legacy characters, but also continuing the story organically. And coming right now, I can't think of any more perfect movie than Top Gun Maverick in this regard. It's a fantastic time. You guys need to check this out. But anyway, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin, that guy over there. He is John. We are your Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. We'll catch you next time.
See ya!
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time. Need to check this out.